The anthemic punk techno-pop of Republica, fronted by singer Saffron, broke through in the late 90s. Now, this was more aggressively electro than the other female-fronted bands at the time, and they charted in the US, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and around the rest of Europe. Now, Saffron's story is particularly interesting. Having spent her very early years in Lagos, Nigeria, the family escaped war for London, where Saffron embarked on her journey to success.
You know that you are being excluded or isolated, or they don't want to play with you, or but you don't know why. It's art, it's drama, it's graphics, it's lyrics, it's writing. It's a complete collaboration of many different creative people. They tell you your lyrics had meant so much to them in a troubled time or something like that. That's a very special feeling. And she went, oh, advanced ballet, and she knew I'd, obviously worked very, very, very hard. And I said, because of you. And I had to throw cardboard boxes over Roger Daltrey's head.
Just time to ask you to become a member. Yes, memberships are new on this YouTube channel. There are different benefits for the 3 different levels. And of course, even just by paying, it helps me to continue this podcast. The other thing you can do, of course, is subscribe and like the video. Please do at least that. Now, that's it. Let's enjoy the interview with Saffron. Saffron, first of all, welcome. I'd really like to know what sort of cultural atmosphere you were brought up around when you were a child.
I was born in Lagos in Nigeria, in West Africa, and my mother was from Hong Kong, so she was mixed Chinese Portuguese, and my dad was English, South Londoner. So the first few years of my life, it was kind of wild and free, running about, making tree houses and stuff, at one with nature. But sadly then there was the Biafran War, which was a very brutal civil war, and so we had to flee the country. But luckily we had the British passport, so and my dad used to go to the pub with some of the soldiers and they let us through. Which that's what happened. And then we moved to England, and obviously all my dad's family here. I grew up near Brighton, and then I was in South London. And
was it hard for your parents to come to Britain under those circumstances?
I think it was. I think that obviously I mean, and also in those years, and obviously, I know about wars because I was kind of born into a place where there was a war, and so not everyone is, and I think that obviously you value your liberty, and those obviously that have gone before, so that you understand the value of having rights and equality, and being given opportunities where obviously I've seen and been in places where other people that had they don't have that.
Were you aware as a child then? I don't know, how old were you when you left Lagos?
I was a few years old.
Okay, but do you have any specific memories? Because obviously in a war-torn country, children take things in. It doesn't matter what age they are. They take it in. And did you take in this sort of danger, do you think?
No, I don't think I did. I think that I was that young. And it's funny you bring this up, because I'm a big fan of the work of Ben Okri, who is quite a successful Nigerian author, and he speaks a lot about spirit children, and that from the age of 1 till about 3 or 4, that we are all free and innocent, you know, and that if we are allowed to play with nature, you know, which is so sad because even, you know, in the UK now, it's like, you know, where are the playgrounds? You know, you know, it's kind of, I don't know if it's a condition thing, you know, but you know what, you know, go out and play, go down the woods, build a tree house. You know, obviously, if it's in a city area, obviously that's obviously, you know, there are you know, obviously safeguarding danger issues, but you know, he talks about the fact that you know, that it's almost like danger can't touch you because you obviously, if you are allowed to be free, you take in that, and that really helps you as a child to be able to make your own choices, and you understand at a young age what you like and you don't like, because you know it from yourself. You haven't been told it, or you haven't been taught it, you know. You know, you soon learn if a bee stings you or something like that, or if you, you know, run about too much without any shoes and socks, it's going to hurt, you know, those simple things, you know.
So when you came to the UK and you settled in Brighton and you went to
Yeah.
school, because of
Mm,
your background, you said your mother was Portuguese from Hong Kong, Chinese background.
mm.
Were you treated as an outsider?
Yes.
So how did that make you feel?
um well, firstly, I think that that's the other thing. You don't understand why anyone else is treating you in a different way, and obviously, as a child as well, um, and you know, it comes back to, you know, the modern day equality, diversion, you know, and inclusion, in the fact that you know that you are being excluded or isolated, or they don't want to play with you, or you know, but you don't know why. And obviously verbally then, you know, sadly, yes, you know, they would say racial things, which is appalling. You know, and that, you know, was in, you know, like a rural, you know, southern town, you know, so you know, I can't imagine what it would be like for people, you know, you know, in inner cities and stuff. You know, it must, the extremities of, or you know, of not being, you know, the discrimination, or people bullying you, but it can affect you even once, you know, growing up,
It can
and
also give you your drive, can't it? Because the thing
yeah,
is,
yeah,
it has, I know this sounds weird to say it, but in
it
a
doesn't.
sense, it has a positive side because
Well, yeah,
you stand out and
mm,
you fight to be
yeah,
seen.
yes, and also you learn to know what you are not and what you don't want to be like, and
Tell me
that.
more.
Yeah, so it's like, and also luckily for me, I was like, because you do, and you do get angry, you don't understand, and you do. Luckily, obviously had a personality where I thought, oh, you know, this isn't right. I'm going to stand up for myself, you know. But I was into punk music, and you know, going and buying vinyls, and I actually was like, do you know what? I'm actually going to. I want to be the opposite of you. I don't want to be you. You know, I'm going to be me, and I don't care if you don't like me. You know, so it's like you say, like you know, in your teens, it's that adolescent thing. But I was already feeling that, and I thought, you know what? I don't care
No,
because
it's
I
really
know what
interesting
I
you
like.
say that because when I was 13, this was in 1972, and Bowie came on TV. And as a gay teenager, I saw
Yes,
Bowie, and he
yes,
was the world where I could belong. So music,
exactly.
in a sense, gave me a sense of belonging, a sense of community. Was punk then that sense of belonging?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. and because it was also, you know, that representation, there was polystyrene, you know, Pauline Black, you know, Toy and Sue, you know, and all this amazing, you know, there was, I love reggae, I like ska, you know, I got into, where music started, the blues and Robert Johnson, and finding out, you know, how women, you know, were treated in those days. And and I thought, yeah, I loved punk, and I loved because it was a reaction to conformity, and everyone having, you know, to be, but what? So you can look down on other people, you know, and it's that whole thing. So I just made it worse by back combing my hair, and also being into Bowie and the Cure and punk, and you know, that was so outlandish and outrageous, but I thought it's fabulous.
I mean, being outsider, in a sense, can also make you special. And if you look at outsiders in music, it's, you know, music is full of people that felt that they were outsiders. Bowie, of course,
Yes,
the outsider, the alien, was
yes.
completely through all his music.
Yes, and the expression, not just through the music, through, you know, your look, your style, you know, your makeup, or what you wear, you know, your attitude, and the theatre, the drama, you know, and the lyrics, and you know, the whole thing goes together, and you know, and it's like, wow, you know, that you're unique, and like you say, I want to be you, but I want to be, of course everyone wants to be David, but back then they didn't, you know, not everyone wanted to be David, but it's like, for me certainly, and I think for you, it's like, oh wow, this is amazing, like, yeah, it's something to look up to because it's so different, but that's what punk was about. And indie, and being yourself, and expressing yourself, whether it be, you know, through music, or how, what you wear, or your makeup, or you know, just walking proud, you know, and having gothic makeup and stuff, and you know, people
Was-
wanting to walk on the other side of the road.
I mean,
Bye.
you've talked about when you performed as a younger child, and I just wondered, if you're an outsider at school and then you perform for your parents and you're performing for other people and you get a sort of good attention through that, I just wondered if that also was the drive, because in a way, do you understand what I mean? That the outsider,
Yes,
you're just getting pushed away, and then
yes,
by performing, people are
yes,
coming to you.
yes, yes, absolutely. But also because I really actually did want to be David, and I did, and in my head, I always knew I want to be in hot gossip or a rock star. So I'm going to train every night after school and go to ballet and tap and do drama and music and singing, because that is what I love and want to do. And I don't want to go to disco as a girl with boys and put fake tan on. You know, I'm going to save my money and get a little job and go and buy a ticket, and, you know, go and see these fabulous bands, and all these people that are so different. And you learn about that. And it's the theatre of it all. And say, yeah, I want to do this. Um, and then, they took my mum aside, and they actually said, she's really good at it. Because she was like, "Oh, you have to learn typing. You know, you can't be doing all of it." You know, because obviously it's so hard as a parent. Like, what do you mean you want to be in hot gossip? No, I really want to be in hot gossip, mum, and I'm going to be a rock star. Yeah, okay, yeah, okay. Can you just take that makeup off? And you can't go to school dressed like that.
Can I just ask you this? Because when I was brought up, my father was an absent father. I mean,
Yeah.
he was at home, but he left when I was about 13. But he was emotionally and often physically absent. You've talked about your mother a lot, and I just wonder what role your father had in the family.
Yeah, my father was amazing, and he was, full of, he was the part, you know, he was full of personality and character, as was my mum actually. Like, but sadly he died when I was 13. So that also, I believe, as you were saying, such a trauma and stuff like that made me grow up in one day to survive, and they do say that if something like that happens, the older sibling just subconsciously wants to protect the rest of the family, and inside obviously will take on a role because they understand that they have to help mummy or whichever parent. Yeah, so that was really hard. It's hard for anyone, but it's also hard if they're alive and they're not there. So I often wonder what's worse,
Yeah,
to know
I
they're
was.
there and they're not there, they're dead, they died us. What's worse? Mm.
I always so I mean, my therapist has said to me
Yeah.
that when an emotional trauma happens when you're young,
Hmm.
you often, until you've dealt with it later in life,
Yeah.
you
Hmm.
often stay at that emotional age in some way.
Yeah, you absolutely do. Yeah, I don't know if you know, but I'm also a qualified mental health and social care officer. And yeah, and there are many reasons. I did it in private for many years. I trained, and I was just really fascinated with people's behaviour and how people act. And also, wanting to understand others more. And my mother had after my dad died, she worked 3 jobs, but she looked after disabled children and babies. And so that had been around me, so much. And, it's almost like, you know, the work and stuff that she had to go through and looking after all these poor little babies, and so I almost wanted to, in her honor, go and do some myself. And it's so rewarding and finding out, but also, finding out about people's behavior and why they act as they do. And yes, grief, and loss, and childhood traumas that you may even not remember that has happened to you, being bullied, and that feeling could be triggered at any time. And sadly, it's not taught at school. Yes, there's more education, and I'm a big mentor, in throwing it right out there, and talking about how you feel, and I think it's so very, very important that people, that actually is at the root of everything, and it should be taught in schools. And positive behavior analysis, support, and planning, is a kind of a new thing, but I think it should be taught at school as well. Because not everyone's brought up, with good manners or to be polite, or be, because that they don't know what that is, and they haven't experienced it, and yes, it's also, I think, a sweep under the carpet kind of generational thing whereby don't talk about it. So that also adds on to the trauma because you're being denied, or almost like what you say is not relevant, or how you feel, and don't talk about it because it's not important or it doesn't exist, or what don't you believe me? Yeah, it's that, and that can also cause a lot of upset for many people, because some people then later years think it's their fault. You know, they have a guilt which they should never have been made to feel, but because they were young, that no one explained to them. Oh, or talk to them after something that happened, but it could just be something during your day that upset you, that may stay with you. But definitely, like as you said, where there's a parent absent, that in itself is a trauma,
Yeah, I think
and
most people think that trauma is this big, huge thing, and it's not necessarily, it can be obviously, but it's not necessarily that. Can I go back to something you said, because you mentioned hot gossip?
yeah,
I remember hot gossip. And Arlene Phillips is a name that always comes up when you do an
yeah.
interview. What was it about Arlene Phillips that you were so fascinated by?
Well, but just because there was this extraordinary woman, choreographer created, these amazing dance troupe of female like punk rockers that were dancing and singing to punk music. And it was wow, there, this isn't kind of fans people. This is like punk rock. It's amazing, and I just loved it, and I loved her choreography. It was fierce. She was taking stuff from the New York gay scene. She was taking, the other choreographers, had never, it had always been, either classical or modern or a little bit jazz hands. She she was pushing it to the limit, and she at the time was the choreographer of the hit musical Starlight Express. So I had my target. That was my that was what I was aiming to achieve after ballet school. So I got my provisional lexicon, and I basically pushed my way to the front, fell on my on my backside, and she went, "You get up." And then I was, I had to dance and sing and stuff. But she saw my CV, and she went, "Oh, advanced ballet," and she knew obviously worked very, very, very hard. And I said, "Because of you." I said, "Because I want to be on costume." And she was like, "Okay." She said, "Are you willing to work the hardest you've ever?" I went, "Yes, of course I am." And then her and Angela or whoever put me in a military style boot camp to learn roller skating, and then I did a stadium tour of Japan and Australia in Starlight Express. I was the youngest ever member, and then I did the London West End production. It was fabulous.
I mean, you mentioned the school that you went to. I think it was called the Bush
But
Davis
Davis,
School
yeah,
of Theatre Arts.
yes,
Did you have a particular mentor in that school? Because
yes,
sometimes, like we have mentors in life and we don't know
yes,
we're going to have them. And they come along,
yes.
we look back and we go, oh, wow, that made so much sense.
Do you know what? That's why Bush Davis, was seen as second to the Royal Ballet School, because nearly every single teacher, they really were, they what they gave to the students, Sue Passmore, head of drama, I used to drag me and my friend down the corridor and lock us in a room until we'd learned all the lines, because she knew we were really good. We didn't, but then we were like passing all and getting like distinctions and honour in our Lambda and Guildhall drama exams as well. And both Miss Percy and Miss Peterson, they were the heads of the Imperial Society of Teachers of Dancing. So they were kind of the heads of the school. So they were tap, modern, and ballet. And we had in like Dame Beryl Gray and Elfrida Thorogood, who was prima ballerinas. The teach. We were very, oh my God, these and that. They've, played the Dying Swan. You back up. That we were we were there was such a wonderful not ballet and modern, and there was a theatre, and there was drama, there was comedy, music and singing, and past every room, every day, all day, every day. And myself, and my best friend Johnny Partridge, actually, who you might know, and he played Christian in EastEnders. He played the first gay white man role, but he also has played every single lead role in all the West End and Broadway productions. And he recently played Caesar in Cleopatra with Jada Pinkett Smith of Netflix. And it was funny because me and Johnny, we were scholarship students, so we were also kind of bullied. We weren't silver spooned and students or parents that had lots of money. So I think we tried a lot harder, to prove ourselves, as well. Because we somehow got a council grant, which itself, looking back, thank you, Sussex Council, because they don't give out arts grants anymore. you know, and they only gave one a year.
I mean,
So, you know, we felt, you know, so lucky, you know, to have been chosen, you know.
do you have the feeling that when you meet someone, there's always an exchange, that you learn something from them and they learn something
Yes.
from you? Because then I want to ask you, what do you think Arlene Phillips gleaned from you?
Well, we're still good friends, and I treasure that, you know, because she gave me you know, she gave me that chance, and I think she knew and saw a spark in me, so I knew I was telling the truth, that actually I had trained all these years because I loved her work, and that's, you know, I think quite special, and that I was consistent, and I did work the hardest I'd ever worked, and I think that, you know, she saw that a raw spark in me, and gave me an opportunity. She believed, you know, so because you know, that's a huge deal, you know what I mean?
I mean,
You know, to be chosen. And yeah, you know, and also because you say that that thing where it's that collaboration then to work with this other person that you know is your work to, but then obviously now you're collaborating with this person, and you are then a conduit of obviously their work. You know what I mean? You know, so like co-writing with a song, you know, or you know, making recordings, you know, so with lyrics, or you know, someone, there's a guitar and music and production, and then it's like, you know, it goes up a level because you know, she's kind of the creator, but I'm kind of her conduit, you know what I mean? And you know, obviously wanting to show her work in the best possible way. So hope, yeah, and you know that we're still friends now. So I hope I I did her justice, and did show her work in the best way possible.
I mean, around this time, you were appearing in pop videos,
Yeah.
and also another friend, I suppose. I don't know whether he became a friend at that moment in time, but Chesney Hawkes. Can
Yes,
you
he's still my friend. Yeah.
can you tell me about meeting him and being in the one and only?
Well, it was extraordinary because, you know, back then, you know, kind of in the West End, and come, you're jobbing, you know, and if there's, you know, auditions to, you know, maybe be in videos and this, and it was like, oh God, there's like a music video, and it's Roger Daltrey from The Who's in it. You know, and there's a new artist, and there's a film coming out called Buddy Song. You know, it's a UK British film, and you know, it could be a good one, you know, to go along to audition. So I went along and I got the part, and it was this amazing song, and it was Chesney Hawkes, and the other girl that was chosen was Lucy Alexander, who then became the presenter for Homes Under Their Hat. So the three of us, you know, we all sort of then became, like, you know, quite successful. And I had to throw cardboard boxes over Roger Daltrey's head in the video. But Chesney was and is one of the most talented and lovely human beings you'd ever meet. And he actually helped me do a couple of my first demos in Abbey Road, because he was working with Nick Kershaw. And, you know, it was wonderful. And he said, I'll help you know, because I said, I write songs as well, you know, you know, I'm already in that Starlight Express now. I'm going for the rock star, you know. And I've got writing some songs. And yeah, and a few years ago we reconnected, and we've done quite a few shows together. Recently, his London show with Nick Kershaw as well, and yeah, yeah, and he sang "Ready to Go" with me, so it came round full circle. It's wonderful.
When did you first start writing?
I think I've always written as a child. You know, I'm I keep journals and done. I've always written. I love poetry. I love books. Got a massive. I'm a bit geeky actually. Um, Obviously the classics, but my specialist genre. I'm a member of Science Fiction and Fantasy Book Club, like lifelong member. And so yeah, but I love English, I love poetry. So I think that also as well was the other thing about punk, was that people were writing their own songs and about their lives, which previously, it had all been kind of commercial, sort of, pop manufactured stuff. But these people were singing about their lives and their experiences. And so I kind of like really was attracted by Polystyrene or Toya or N-Joi or John Cooper Clarke. Wow, these people with unique voices, unique writing talents, as well as vocal delivery. Paul Weller, a poet, to me are great poets as well. Some of their work is extraordinary. And stands up. And yeah, so I think that as well, pushed me on to write great songs.
It's
Yeah.
interesting that you mentioned Toya, because I interviewed Toya, and with her story, it is really the complete outsider, because
Yes.
physically,
Yes.
the outsider.
Yeah.
And I was, talking to you, I was thinking of Toya at the same time,
Yes.
because you've got such a unique character
Mm.
as well, and it's almost like you're a little bit on the edge of society. I mean that in a really
Yeah.
positive way, as an artist,
Yeah.
on the edge. Is that something that you feel that you are?
Well, I was in Toya's fan club when I was 13, and I used to follow and she knows it. And me and Gary Newman's wife, Gemma, we always used to say we were a group stalking. And she was like, what are you doing? You're my friends. It's like, are we? And it was like, and the first it was like, I won an award and Toya gave it to me, and I was more excited that Toya was there than the award, and I forgot. I even might have forgotten and left it on the. But and that we've become close friends now, and I love her, and because she, again, she inspired me. Because if there wasn't a Toya, like you're saying, if there's not a Bowie, then if you haven't got a site to set yourself on, you got to raise the bar. And to also find out that she's lovely, and her story again, wow, you had to overcome all of this as well. Wow. And it's like people forget, she's in Jubilee, she, acted, with like Catherine Hepburn, and she's like, she's badass.
Don't go away. More of Saffron coming up, including news of her latest release. Now, just time for me to ask you to become a member. There are 3 different levels. And by becoming a member, you, of course, support me in what is, quite frankly, a lot of effort and time in my week, although I love it. So please do that if you can afford it. If not, just subscribe, like this video. Every little helps. So that's it. Promo over. Let's get back to Saffron and that interview.
A couple of years ago, I was so lucky because I did a UK tour called Electric Ladies with Toya and Lena Lovitch, in support of Hazel O'Connor, who sadly had a stroke and was in a coma. So we went out on tour, and it was really quite magical. And I got to sing Will You with Toya every night. And which was very emotional. And we sent a video with all the audience sending our love to Hazel, who was in a French hospital on her own. And so she knew she was loved. And that was very important,
You mentioned your journals a moment ago.
Mm-hmm.
Do you look back at them, and what do you recognize about yourself when you look back at what you'd written?
I think that also, I mean, things, it's like I used to write down the top 40 like every Sunday. It was very important to me. Like, yeah, and I had like a shit, and I had to I knew that I had to write so quickly, so I'd get who the artist was, who the band was, what the song was called, so that then I would go and find out who'd written it, who was in the band, what the names were, who wrote the songs, who did the lyrics, who did the music, the production. And I felt, I was really quite I was like Sherlock Holmes. Jeremy Brett. I'm a massive Jeremy Brett fan. Anyway, and yeah, I think that kind of investigative. Sorry, excuse me. When it was, oh wow, this is a great song, but wow, look at what they're wearing, and their lyrics mean a lot. I wonder what they're about, and the cover artwork and stuff. That whole kind of it meant everything, and you could find out so much. Because it wasn't just music, it's art, it's drama, it's graphics, it's lyrics, it's writing, it's a complete collaboration of many different creative people.
It's also, in a sense, a useful tool, because if you ever bump into someone and you hear those names, you may not know them visually, as it were,
absolutely.
but you may know them in another way. And of course, your sort of, in a sense, your break came with N-Joi. How did that come about? We worked with Nigel Champion and Mark Franklin, I think.
Yeah, and the thing, well, yes, because when I was so I was in Starlight Express in the late 80s, and then I was in the London show, and it was acid house music. So, we were going out to all the Soho gay clubs there, and all these kind of underground raves of DJs. And, it was very much these new electronic records that were made in Chicago and Detroit and Ibiza, Balearic Islands, this new dance music. And it was amazing. And also, the technology had advanced so that, there were like, these machines that you could, start making your own. And they were like, well, you sing on the stage, can you, come and, like, we're writing these things. And so they were just my kind of clubbing friends. And it was me, Mark, Nigel, like Liam from Prodigy, Keith, they weren't the Prodigy then, but then we all started doing our little tunes. And that's what happened. And we did hundreds and hundreds of kind of clubs and raves and that, and it was super. And then that I just went on to writing my own songs, and wanting to push boundaries a bit more, but wanting to do it in live as well. So I knew I wanted to be in a band, so that's when I formed Republica.
Before we go on to Republica, I mean, you mentioned all these guys. They're all Essex boys, aren't they?
They
so
are.
You got this. I mean, I was born in Chelmsford. Actually, I was born in House Street, which is a small village near Pleshy, where Keith was.
Yeah.
And then Liam was in Braintree, wasn't he? I would
That's
have thought.
right. Yeah.
And the other guys were in Southend. By being an N-Joi and them having success, it gave you a vision of what you really wanted to do. You became clearer in a way.
Oh, definitely. And also, as you said before, meeting others, Neil McClellan, who was a producer, and doing writing songs with him in the studio, and him teaching me skills, and him helping me. I helped him write songs, and it was like this all-encompassing, it's important for me not to just write songs, but understand how to record them, how to, the mixing process, the production, the sound, is so important. And and to obviously work with other people. And that's how I kind of got my deal. And then I introduced him to Liam, and he's been producer of the Prodigy ever since, So it's that thing where you kind of find your tribe, you find people, and even if you don't know them, you go after them, or sometimes they come after you because you kind of I'd like to work with you because I really respect what you do, you know, and they respect, you know, why don't we do something together? Because we feel it would, you know, it would make it, you know, kind of a good alchemy or a good chemistry, you know, and working with Junkie XL for Tom Holkenberg, you know, was wonderful. You know, and he's now gone on, you know, he writes most of the, you know, the blockbuster movie soundtracks in Hollywood. He's an extraordinary producer, but also composer, you know, so yeah, it's just, you know, you get excited about working with different people as well.
I mean, you mentioned like you find your tribe, but it's in a sense, it's not only finding your tribe, it's also opening up opportunities. And one thing that I feel from what I've read about you is that you are able to put yourself out there, and you can be
Yeah, yeah.
quite you got a lot of front, as they say. So you
Yeah,
go out there and you can put yourself out there and take a risk. And
yes,
this is really how Republica got successful, isn't it?
yes.
You were in the States. Can you tell me about that?
Well, it's we were so, I mean, you know, we was absolutely privileged, and it was like, oh yeah, you know, it's not all about, you know, talent and songs and, you know, being great suddenly. It's about, you know, being timing and having that lucky and someone believing in you and getting a call from the head of RCA America. What? And you know, and him flying over, and you know, I remember I had an idea with my friend Misty Darling, who ran Madame Jojo's at the time, and so we started a club for Republica, because you know it was, you know, just blokes and misogyny everywhere, and you know, they wouldn't book us, so I thought, okay, well, so you know, we'll start a club in Soho, and it worked really well, and it was great, and they came to see us there, and then yeah, I flew over to New York, and they signed us, and it was amazing. So we went to the States and just basically played every town, club, city, everything like this, and we were the underdogs, you know, we were kind of nobodies, and it was just extraordinary because we suddenly started getting quite successful. People used to, you know, because over there it really is like, it's not to do with, oh, you're this week's trend or what you're wearing. You know, it's because it's so vast and so, you know, different every state or town. Um, you know, they go to live gigs and either they like you or they don't. Either they think you're great or you're not, and so you do really have to, you know, prove yourself, you know, tread the boards and do the graft, and you know, and of course, from my training, you know, I would go into every radio station and thank them. I'd go, you know, and do performances or acoustic or go to the record shops, you know, meet the fans, you know, it's so important. um you know, and you know, to be, you know, that's my job, my you know, duty, responsibility, but you know, I know how to be, to promote things.
You also mentioned timing, and
Mm.
the timing was that there was, I mean, there's always changes in music and sort of different type of styles and themes coming through, and there was No Doubt were coming through
That's right,
in
yeah.
America, and that played a part, didn't it?
It did. It was a really big part because actually a good friend of mine, Les Sly, he went to school with Gwen and Antonio, and he said, you've got to meet my friend Gwen, and they're in this band called No Doubt, but they've been going for 15 years and they're about to give up. I thought, well, because you know, it's because the radio won't play them. And so I met them and I was just like, and I went, oh wow, you know, they're amazing. Like, you know, this band are like, I mean, you can't give up, Gwen, you know. And she showed me all the scrapbooks over the years. And I was like, you're badass. This is great. And luckily that month, this extraordinary man, Matt Penfield, who loves strong female singers, he playlisted like a Girl by No Doubt into onto MTV, and that was it. You know, it then exploded, and then the radio started for the first time. It on the rock radio started playing female, you know, singers with rock, and then they also playlisted it on heavy rotation, ready to go, and garbage is due for go. And it kind of was, kind of like gathered, quite a lot of power. And suddenly, all the radio stations were also playing our songs. Yeah.
I mean, you did achieve massive success. I mean, you mentioned Ready to Go as obviously Drop Dead Gorgeous, but at that period, and particularly in America, where, that the biggest market, as it were,
Yes.
and there you are being really successful, and you'd spent a lot of your life chasing that success. And I
Yeah.
just wondered what the feeling of success was.
Well, it's that thing. It's extraordinary, I think, certainly that we had that, as I said, the opportunity to go to, America. We were complete nobodies, so it wasn't like, we were on the scene or something like this in England. And we suddenly did start so it was great that it was on merit, but you had to, obviously, and the thing is, there's no other way to really do it, because fame in itself is vacuous. It's an empty, and I do worry about, people, with social media. So, you know, success and achievement is one thing. Fame is completely, um, and it's never enough just to be on the telly, this, that, but, and also, that won't make you happy, or feel a sense of achievement or anything like this. I think that because if you're in a band or you create something, like songs or music, or you're an artist, and to go out and just see, a few people, and then more people buying tickets, and they're singing, you know, your songs back to you, and they're coming to your shows and they're buying your record. I mean, they tell you your lyrics had meant so much to them in a troubled time or something like that. That's a very special feeling.
Fame is a very interesting concept in a way, because when I was young, my father had nothing to do with me, and so I think I ended up on MTV to try and get the world to love me. I was on MTV
Yeah,
to try and get the world to love me, which was the compensation for my father not loving me. And of
yeah,
course, I didn't get I didn't get love. You know what I mean? I got
yeah,
attention, but not love, and it made me more unhappy.
yes, yes.
And I think that's something that people don't realize. And it's what you said, that fame can be very vacuous and it can be very
It is.
empty.
Yeah, and you,
But
yeah,
it's very difficult
it's
to
very dark as well.
well,
It's
it's
very
also
dark.
difficult to navigate, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
people would give you a different sort of attention, and suddenly you're sort of in a different position with other people. And I just wondered how you managed to navigate that period of your life until it was uh, something that you could deal with normally again.
I don't think I would have been able to cope or be prepared, because I mean, I've been on stage all my life. I'd been in Starlight Express. I trained for years. To be able to pass ballet exams and this. And so I actually was trained before. To be able to sustain not just a schedule. Like a 65 city date tour of America for anyone is hard, it's not easy. Um, but yes, all that brings, that's the bit they don't teach you about. And obviously, to a great extent, of course, I had, um, um, experienced it before. But obviously, as you say, in a musical, if you're playing someone else, you're playing, a different role. But it doesn't make it any less, difficult or whatever, to deal with people suddenly what are you doing? I'm following you, what for? You don't really understand why now people are screaming at you and Sainsbury's. I don't know. I'm frightening children. But it can be very strange. To sustain that model, success, but the whole fame thing, take it. It's yours. I don't want it, that part of it, I never did it you know,
Who did
you
you
know.
have as an anchor? Because I remember, you know, my best friend being somewhat of an anchor to me when I would go completely nuts.
I think yeah, that's the other thing. It's so important, and sadly, it's the entertainment industry, darling. Where people get chewed up and spat out every day. You know, and because so many people want to be fat, or they want to do, and if someone tells you, oh, I promise you the world, that they can take it away in a second. Oh, then you're too old. Oh, then what I mean. It's like next, it's that whole thing, and I think that to understand that, and to understand it's actually more difficult to sustain it in a way, that and there's going to be highs and there's going to be lows, and I think you have to, and many, especially pop, the more on the pop side of things, where you're in a band that you don't actually know any of the other people, and you're young, and very controlled, that I think they could suffer a lot more, and they'd always come and find me, and I'd give them a hug, or be a friend, because luckily I already have had really good mates, so I knew who my friends were. I didn't need any more.
When the Speed Ballads came out and the band sort of dissolved, what was the feeling at that time between Tim and Andy and yourself?
The week of release of Speed Ballads, we just done a sold out UK tour. The pre-order sales were top 3, top 2, even number 1. And then the week of the release, our independent label went bankrupt, and there were no copies in the shops. So yeah, there were riots outside Tower Records, and that really hit. I probably had a bit of breath. I mean, because there's nothing you can do about it. But it just makes no sense at all. But why can't you just make some more and put them in the shop? But yeah, well, it's not as easy as that, because your labels, connected to the major label and the distribution and all things like this. And it was very, very hard, because we all felt so betrayed, which we had been. You know, there and it was, there's all these, millions of people that want, and they've been waiting for this. I mean, I kind of promised, and that now, you know, I can't give it to you because I haven't got a copy myself. So it was just one of those awful situations. And then of bad luck, but you also realise that you're part of such a machine that actually doesn't care. It's like,
Well, that's
'cause
hard, isn't it?
no logical business sense either. Just get more copies in the shop. It'll earn millions and millions. I can't be bothered.
So how did you pick yourself up from that?
Right. Well, it was obviously a very difficult time. There was obviously, I'm not allowed to, legalities obviously, went back and forth, but it was obviously very understandable that the others, chose, to do. Yeah, that's because we had to, because we were kind of stuck. If we refused to, put a record out that was already out, and people had already bought it, but then they, it was, we were in a very, very sticky situation, but they wouldn't let us go. Yeah, they wouldn't let us go. So yeah, so we kind of stuck. So the others, of course, they, go and do, because we couldn't do anything either. So we were kind of stuck. But Hazel O'Connor actually had a very similar situation. For many years, I think it was like, might have been 12 years or something. There was some law or something she'd signed, or a manager had signed, and she couldn't release anything or make any music for 12 years. And yeah, that kind of nearly broke her. And back in the days, it's you know when you're not useful to them anymore. But it was like crazy. We still are, but you can't be bothered. It's like, what?
Did you actually sort of go down some sort of hole at that point?
Yeah, I think so. but I think that the feeling of that I was responsible because all my fan, are waiting, you know, yeah, it's not my fault, but they don't know. I know I felt I hadn't, that I could. There was nothing I could have physically done or anything done any different, because a lot of people, it's not my choice. I don't, do it myself. Um, and I'm so sorry, but what I I can't. I tried, you know, and so yeah, that was a really tough time. So, but as you say, I wouldn't have had the chance then, the Prodigy I worked, and then Robert Smith and the Cure asked me to work with them, Gary Newman, Junkie XL, Carl Cox, Jeff Beck. I became it was like gifts were being sent back, to kind of make up for this awful you couldn't have written it. It was real Sunset Boulevard, and oh my God, you know what? Um, yeah, so I carried on writing with other people, and I carried on, the band, and yes, I still do. So it's they were still firing me, they weren't that wasn't gonna stop me.
Yeah, I mean, and it has turned full circle to a certain extent, hasn't it? I mean, first of all, your old hits are still ever present, and you've
Yeah.
got new material. So,
Yeah,
in a sense, the
exactly.
cycle is starting to become complete. So, tell me about the Damaged Gods album and how that came about and how that has made you feel again.
Well, it's wonderful. It's as you say. So over the years, also just writing, and we're just so blessed, because you never know the life of a song. But I think songs are immortal because they just carry on, and they're your legacy. But um, you know, it's very, very rare to have two huge hit songs that are still being played 30 or 40 years later, and are in and being used in films and TV, but also really current, like Captain Marvel and Yellow Jackets and Ted Lasso, Cruel Summer, Cheer or Die. We've been just blessed with sports and cars, and you meet people that like they might not know who you are, or that they know the song because it's the Denver Broncos, or so it carries on its for meaning to other people, which is extraordinary. Yeah, so work with so many friends: Andy Gray, Andy Wright, and Marco Baroni, and just so many wonderful people. And gathered lots of songs, and then Tim and Johnny wanted to come back and do some shows with me. And so we started doing making songs again, yeah, and yeah, and then obviously the pandemic happens because we had it already before, and also as well it gave me a chance, and I reconnected with N-Joi, so it was like really coming back full circle, and then remixing and getting to work with them again was extraordinary.
And also, a track like Hallelujah is a real another anthemic track, which is sort of what
Yes,
you're known for in a way, and it's got that,
exactly.
yeah.
And also we got to, N-Joi got to, we got to produce and master it with N-Joi. It's just fantastic.
I just want to ask you finally, is because I really find this part fascinating, that the young child that was at school and the outsider, if you could meet that young child and whisper something into her ear, what would you say?
um well done. Go for it. Well done. I'm proud of you. Go for it.
You made the right decisions. You did go for it, and you
Yeah.
create what's really brilliant. And I like to say this to all artists, because you've really contributed something to the culture that has been important for so many people, and the songs are in my head and they're in so many people's head, and I think that is a real gift, and for that I definitely want to say thank you, Saffron. So
Oh, bless you. Oh gosh, that's emotional. Thank you so much. And that means so much to me because that's kind of why I did it, to spread the love and, and if my work, lyrics or, my melody or voice, touches someone in another country or anywhere and makes them smile or happy or want to go out dance, then that's love and truth and, togetherness and, you know, equal and individual and be yourself. And yeah, so thank you.
up there is an interview I recommend. Down there is where you can find all the podcast interviews. And here is where you can connect.